Hello, friends. Host Eric here, host Talking with Famous People. And as you can see, I'm fishing. Fishing for what? Fishing for the attainment of wisdom. Here we go. Let's make this video on the animal and narrative self. Bum, 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 bum. Someday I'll attain some wisdom if I fish long enough. Okay.
Fiance seems to be the fisherwoman because I can't seem to catch fish.
Indeed. Well said, Kimberly. Well said. Here we are now, the animal self and narrative self. Piao, I will say, with this. So,
What are you referring to?
well, first of all, I'm saying here that the animal self comprises two selves, the state of physical being and the state of emotional being. This can broadly be called SI and FI.
What prompted you to do this video?
Thinking about stuff that I've learned from recent experiences.
Recent?
Or just recent ideational work that I've done. Thinking about stuff and how ideas have developed a little bit since I've been thinking about this. It's developed in this angle. Yada, yada, yada.
In what time frame?
Last couple of days. Having to do with my determination of Nick as an ENFJ and my recognition of what the implications of that are with the SI and NI is really informed my thinking about SI and NI and made me want to make this video. Okay, so state of physical being broadly would be called SI. State of emotional being broadly would be called FI. But my point of this video is not to be super cognitive functioning. It's to talk about this stuff in other terms. So, the state of physical being, if you think of an animal, what does it have? It has two things. It has its state of being, its health, quote unquote, and it's got hungers, desires. It's got a desire to eat, it's got a need for water, it's got a desire to mate, and these things are going to drive its behavior. So if it's going to be in a good,
sleep.
Well, yeah, sleep's one too. I'm not saying that's an exhaustive list of physical needs.
I just don't think that a need is actually really sleep.
Okay, well, right now though, I'm just talking about animals, not even people. So if you have a cat, for example, it has to have at least two things. It's got to have a state of being, comfort or discomfort. You can tell if an animal is hurt or if it's healthy. And it also needs to have a sense of interacting across time. So if it's hungry, it needs to know that there's a way to get full, that it's not impossible to change a state of being. And so the way I've outlined that basic concept here is the animal self is comprised of a state of physical being and a state of emotional being. The state of physical being is experiential, it's linked inseparably to now, and it neither hope nor fear exist. It's the experience of what your body is feeling right now. It's just only comfort or discomfort. The state of emotional being is experiential as well. You realize it in the moment, but it's linked to two or more moments in time. It seeks to pursue the no. It seeks to make the present persist. So in other words, it's aware of the risk that it might not, or it seeks to change the present. In other words, it's aware that a different future might be had. Thus, it expresses as either hope or fear. And it links to the narrative self bidirectionally, which means events in the narrative self impact the emotional self, and experiences of the emotional self impact the narrative self. All right, so now let's look at the narrative self and how it's distinct from the animal self. So we've talked about what animals have to have just to be existent live beings. They've got to have a state of being and they've got to have a valuing of something. Now, to be a human means to express yourself not only on those two animal planes, but to understand the self as an expression of language or communication as well. So there's two ways in which the narrative self expresses: the expression of the social self, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm talking to you, I'm explaining ideas, When you're listening to the ideas and processing them, you're experiencing the development of the narratives in your own head as you link those ideas to other ideas and stuff. That's your expression of the social self in the moment. Depending on what manner of expression of social self you're currently doing, you may be experiencing various emotions that go along with that. So in that regard, it's linking to the state of emotional being. It's the experiential aspect of metaphysics. It's metaphysically experiential. It's the real-time expression of a turn-based modality. You have to express the social self in language, in some sort of representation of your experience, but the expression of that in the moment is the real-time expression of the turn-based modality of language. So it links to the physical self descriptively. I can talk about how my body feels, but I can't dictate how it feels. I can't say, feel like I have a broken arm right now and experience that. But I can describe, it doesn't feel like my arm feels, actually my elbow is a little sore now that I think about it. This is sort of SI seeking reality that I have, is I'm not particularly attuned to the experiential expression of my physical being. But when I pay attention to it, I can note things. My elbow is a little sore. Um, and it says, it links to the emotional self as character irreducibly. I'm not quite sure how the experience of the expression of social self links to the emotional self as character. So I just sort of put a question mark there. Anyway, the expression of self as character is the other half of narrative self, and that's metaphysically binary, which means it's not me talking right now, it's what I think later on about what this video meant in the larger picture of things, perhaps, and create an update to my overarching character description of who I think I am over the course of my life, right? So, in that regard, it's a turn based expression of turn based modality, and it links to all selves reductively. It says, it puts everything into a set of words and says, this is what this is, and this is what this is, and this is what that is what I'm doing right now. I'm explaining everything in terms of the expression of a self as character, and in terms of the expression of social self. I'm experiencing it as an expression of social self. You're experiencing it as an expression of self as character. So the narrative self is the part of me that's communicable to you and that stays consistent across communication is basically the expression of self as character. And when I am, whether I'm doing it directly or subtextually or whatever, that process is how we know each other. We know each other as our expressions of self as character. And it's, says here, yeah, it links renderings of past selves to projections of future selves. So I know who I was. I explain how I came to be who I am now based on how I was. This is my SI interpretation of it. So here we've got, this is basically NI, okay? NI is the expression of self as character. And this one up here is basically FETI or TIFE. Um, the thing that's not included in this is the expression of the selves as action in the world. And I didn't include that because I didn't think of it until just now. That's the truth of it. And if I had, I probably would have put it there, but this is fine for anyone. I just realized that, well, what about the other stuff? Well, TE is like, TE and SE go together because they don't include, they're what you're doing when you're not doing self. They're what you're doing when you're not doing self. So they're not really self. They are certainly expressions of self upon the world, but they don't really tell us anything about the self. I guess they are what happens when this stuff finishes its various calculations and spits out an impulse to do something. Any is something that's going to link a lot to the expression of self as character, because in order to express the self as character, I guess I should put NI and NE here. Okay, so the takeaway from this is if you've got polar SI and polar FI, if you've got polar SI or polar FI, you're going to have a big trouble relating to the animal self. If you've got polar SI or polar FI and the other one on the unconscious side of the stack, it's going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to really attain a balance between your narrative and animal selves. And I think ultimately, optimal functioning for every type involves attaining that balance. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you thought it was insightful, wise, and or helpful, or whatever makes you feel good. Because if you feel good, then that means you like me more, and that's, it's how the whole economy of ontology interactionality works. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. And if you do, that's okay. That's okay. Don't hate yourself. It's fine. Next time.